The folks over in Great Britain are showing us the way. A lot of folks ask the question, what does it look like to really push back on government policies? And we keep saying, wait until the policies come to affect you and then push back. And over in London, that very same thing has indeed happened. They have implemented a ULEZ system, or a ULEZ area, ultra low emission zone. Basically, they put up hundreds and hundreds of cameras all over London to photograph every single person's license plate. And if you don't have a ticket showing that you can operate your vehicle inside London, you are going to get a $200 fine. Now, over in the UK, it's £160. Basically, you need to start paying approximately 16 US dollars per day for the privilege of operating your vehicle in London. If you do not, if you miss a day, you have to pay a $200 fine. Now, this is not going over well over in London, right? So the people are starting to rise up. Hundreds and hundreds of traffic cams have been smashed, spray painted, wires cut, poles cut down, and we're seeing an idea of what it looks like when people just finally say, enough, we're not dealing with this. We're going to talk about what they're doing, why they're doing it, and this is not in any way, in shape or form, a suggestion on what to do, but rather we're looking at the historical case study here of what's happening in London in real time to see what it looks like when people start pushing back on government policies that are way overreaching. Let's jump into it, folks. Welcome to the Poplar Report. I'm Steve Poplar. I'm an accountant, and we look at what's happening in the news. We look at what the news doesn't really want to cover. A lot of the mainstream stories, they definitely don't want to be talking about all these cameras getting sabotaged over in London, because the idea of people rising up against a government and saying no really, really freaks these people out. So let's look at what's happening here. Okay, so the London government decided that they were going to create a zone where only high efficiency, extremely low polluting, like so electric cars, or like super hybrid cars. So only like really brand new cars that are like super eco-friendly actually pass the standard. It's super, super tight. Like not many cars actually pass this kind of standard. Only people who have lots and lots of money to burn on these green cars can actually get their cars approved. So if you're not one of those people and yet you want to drive in the London area, tough luck. You either need to pay 12.5 pounds, which works out to being $15.75 in US currency per day. Per day that you want to drive, that's like a toll just for being on any road. It's not like you're on a toll road, it's like you're just on a road. And so if you have an electric car, or whatever, I think electric cars are exempt from this, but it's all the pollution downtown in London, to save the planet. But yet, it kind of isn't to save the planet, is it? It's really just, we don't want you driving in London. Only rich people are allowed to drive in London. And that's really how the local population is really taking it. This is a major tax on low-income people who can buy the fancy brand new spanking Greenpeace approved, Greta Thunberg approved car. The rich people can go out there and go, okay, yeah, I'll get the newest, emissions standard compliant car. Most people are still driving cars that are 10, 15 years old. My car is, 13 years old, 13 or 14 years old, something like that. My car definitely would not pass this Greenpeace kind of legislation here. But so they rammed this through, and you have to go on their website and you have to purchase permission for your car to be on the road. And if you just forget, or if their system doesn't recognize you as having purchased it, however many things could possibly go wrong with the system, if you fail and you are photographed by one of like 1,000 cameras in the London area, you get a $200 fine. Now, You only have to pay 100 US dollars if you pay it within a fortnight. So only 80 pounds if you pay it within a fortnight, which any policy that implements based on fortnights should be banned just because, right? So for those of you who don't know what a fortnight is, that's 2 weeks. So you have 14 days from the ticket to pay it. Now, we're talking about hundreds of thousands of tickets that are going out. Just in the last 3 months, over 220,000 tickets that they're putting in the mail and mailing to people. And if they pay them within 2 weeks, they only have to pay 80 pounds or 100 US dollars. If they don't, then it's a $200 fine. And if they don't pay it within the first 28 days, it actually goes up even more to $300. Congratulations. That's for driving one day without the correct permit. Now, the people in London are not really cool with these ULEZ cameras. ULEZ cameras. And they're just there. They're not to photograph you speeding. They're not there to photograph you doing something nefarious. They're there to photograph. I mean, if you want to murder people with a knife on the street, you're still allowed to do that, apparently. If you want to burn things, cool, you can do that. But if you want to drive on the road with your company van, your company truck, your minivan for your family, or your regular car for you trying to get to work, you have to pay the $15.75, or if you get caught by one of these cameras, one of these 1,000 cameras, you're going to pay a $200 penalty. So, an unofficial group has formed a Facebook group, I think it is. They have a website, and they're going out there and they're tracking all these cameras, and they call themselves the Blade Runners. And what they're doing is they are smashing the cameras, they're cutting down the poles, they're cutting the wires, they're spray painting the cameras. They're vandalizing these cameras faster than London can put them up. When this was officially launched, it was marked as 500 of these cameras were out of action. So they're not able to repair them faster than people are vandalizing them. And people are just fed up with this. Like, people are absolutely livid. In one area, there were 185 cameras, 156 of them were marked as out of action. Smashed, spray painted, cut wires. And why is this working? Are these people attacking police officers? Are they attacking anything other than these methods of implementation of this terrible policy? They are, so to speak, getting onto the ship and tossing the government tea into the harbor. Right? It's government property. Government property they don't think the government should have. That's being used to tax people unfairly. And so they are going out and they're destroying the capability of the government to enforce this. Because the government doesn't have enough police officers to enforce this on everybody. They don't have enough police officers or bobbies to go around from car to car and check every single car. They need these cameras, this automated system, in order to enforce this unjust law. And so they're going after the methods of implementation of this. And so you see that this is actually being a relatively successful pushback on the government. Is this going to generate more money for the government, or is this going to cost the government more money? So far, just so you know that this isn't for just like a few clunker cars. 2 million people in the London area have started paying the per day subscription of $15.75 per day to operate their car in the London area. Like I said, over 220,000 tickets have been issued. One lady actually got 81 tickets so far, and we're seeing people out there just refusing to pay the tickets as well. One of the cameras that was targeted was put up outside a crematorium to target those who came for funerals. So even people just coming into the city to go to a funeral were being targeted by the government to be hit with this tax. And it's complicated. You have to sign up on their website. You have to log your vehicle. You have to set up payment methods. You have to do all this kind of stuff like that in order to just purchase the right to operate your vehicle in the London area. And this covers all the roads except for like the one main highway that goes through London. So if you're just like driving through London just to get to another place, you can do that as long as you don't get off that main road without paying the ULEZ tax. And we're just seeing this across the board with the UK in general. A lot of people here in the United States are like, no one's coming to take your boomstick. But just August 30th, this comes out. Government to ban machetes and zombie knives. You say zombie knives? What's a zombie knife? I said that. I was like, what's a zombie knife, you know? And here it is. Machetes and zombie-style knives, because zombies have a style of knife, apparently, defined as knives with no practical use. Where have you heard that before? Well, you don't need a 6-inch knife, you know, to cut your cheese. When you let people start telling you what you do or don't need, they start taking that one step to the next step, to the next step, to the next step. And yes, their knives are banned if at the discretion of the police or the bobbies, they don't think your knife has any practical use. Ha! Yeah, people are being stabbed on the streets, but you're not allowed to carry a knife to defend yourself, even though there's people on the streets stabbing each other and potentially stabbing you with a knife. You're not allowed to carry a knife because it doesn't have a practical purpose. So make sure you carry a block of cheese with you while you're walking down the street with your knife to protect yourself, you know, so that you can be like, see, this knife has a practical purpose for cutting this cheese that I have. It's just absurd. Under these measures, machetes and knives that are designed to look intimidating and threatening, known as zombie-style knives, will be made illegal. Okay, so how long is your blade allowed to be? It's not allowed to look scary at the discretion of the police person that's arresting you. Police will be given new powers to seize and destroy knives found on private premises if there are reasonable grounds to believe the blade will be used for something that they ought not to. Oh, okay. Yeah, so they're allowed to enter your property and look for scary knives now. Do you see how this all just kind of keeps flowing? From emissions standards to weapons that they don't like. It moves from boomsticks to air guns. Then it moves down to knives. It moves down to anything that looks scary. Anything that you could be using to possibly protect yourself with is illegal. And so we're just seeing more and more people in the UK are just like, they're done with this. They're done with the government meddling, and people are taking it out on these cameras. This is one of the first major organized pushbacks where people are just en masse destroying these cameras. Like I said, when they launched this, 500 cameras have been taken down. Do you know how many people it takes to take down 500 cameras? When the United States government, if you're in the United States or wherever country you are in, when your country goes too far, it's important to respond creatively. I remember back during the cough, they were so upset of some people here in the Pittsburgh area might go out. I think they caught some people out on the volleyball court, a sand volleyball court, and they were outside playing sand volleyball. They're all spaced out, you know. They're outside, they were spaced out, and they're playing sand volleyball. So what did the city do? The city came and took diggers and dug up all the sand in the sand volleyball pits. So people were pretty upset about that the government's wasting all these resources to stop people from working, exercising outside. This is just ridiculous, right? So somebody took a whole bunch of sand, and there was like a spin turnstile in the government building downtown Pittsburgh, the city hall, and they just in the a roundabout kind of thing, they dumped tons of sand in there so they couldn't turn the door, so no one could get in or out of the door. They just dumped the sand there, and just like the sand was just perfect, because it was very clear what this was in protest of. Nobody was hurt. We're not talking about injuries. We're not talking about, it was not a violent thing. It was a protest. It was, you take away something from us, we're going to take away something from you. You can't use this door anymore for a while until you can figure out how to dig out the sand. But you can't do that from the inside because it's blocking the door. Anyway, how do we push back as things come at us? Don't be the person on the pointy end of the stick, because it doesn't usually go so well for those people. But be ready to participate in protests as appropriate with massive government overreach. Obey your laws as best you can. And make sure that you're just protesting against the laws that are completely unconstitutional if you're in the United States, or beyond the scope of government's authority, wherever country you are in. And make sure that what you're doing is seen by the general population as both reasonable and as necessary. Because if you stand up to protest a government, the thing that you need behind you, you absolutely need behind you, is the goodwill of the people. And that's why things like blocking roads is a stupid idea. It just ticks people off. People are just trying to get to work. Suddenly you've made all these people that are supposed to be on your side against you. Blocking roads is a bad strategy. It's not a good strategy. Unless you're blocking really specific roads that are just for use of certain people. But even then, it's not that great of a tactic or a strategy. And yeah, I don't know why certain people in the United States think this is a great strategy. People over in Europe are gluing themselves to the road and stuff like that, and they're just really infuriating people. There are a bunch of people that actually went out there and tried blocking the road to the Burning Man concert, right? The Burning Man festival, whatever. So all these woke green, pro-world New World Order people are going out to the desert to have their festival, and there's these people that they should be agreeing with, right? Like, are there blocking their road. It was just like, these people are irritating the people that would be the most adamantly like supporting them. And that's just really bad policy. Friends, be the Robin Hood if you need to, but make sure that what you're doing is going to win support for your cause, not harm it. And hopefully we don't have to implement any of those things where you are. But when you have government overreach, make sure it's not self-serving. Make sure it is for the community, and it's not violent. And do what you can to win people over to your cause. That's how the British over in London are pushing back. We've seen this in a lot of other places too, with the yellow vests over in France, some of the tactics that they've employed and stuff like that. It's good to learn from people who are standing up against tyranny around the world, and learning what works, and learning what's good strategies, and being smart. That's the biggest thing I want to take away from this thing is be smart about what you do. And be legal. Be legal. That's what I'm recommending. Be legal. Don't do things that harm people. And protest in such a way that you win people over to your cause. Showing up at a protest and throwing fish. or doing something creative. Back during protests, I remember certain political candidates were being accused of flip-flopping, and people would show up at the things with flip-flops and start smacking them together. I remember when I was in college, a number of the students from my school got up in front of a presidential campaign kind of tour for the opposing party, and they somehow got up to the front row because they, look, all these young people, let's put them up in the front row, and they're all like, yay, go for these guys. And then, like, at a critical moment in the speech, they got out their flip-flops and started slapping them together, and they were ejected pretty fast. But see, that's like one way that you could do something creative, something that's non-destructive, but that is going to spark something in people's minds. It's going to get people to laugh. That's going to get people to kind of see your point in a humorous and engaging way. This is one of the chief ways to push back. If you start looking at tactics from the Green Berets and other stuff like that, what they keep saying is you need to win the hearts and minds of the population. And you need to think about that long and hard. There are stupid people who do all sorts of stupid stuff that will totally alienate the vast majority of the population. And one, don't be those people. And two, don't be helping those people. They are not going to help anyone's cause, right? And people that flip off the handle without a plan and react to situations are oftentimes going to do more harm for their cause than people who act with a level head. Let that slow simmering fury move you to action. But intentional action that's going to move your cause ahead. All right, folks. Hopefully this has been inspiring. Hopefully this has been interesting. Go check out the Blade Runners over in London to see what they're doing and why they're kind of doing it. Look up kind of the information on what's going on with that if you want to find more information about that. And keep thinking about what is wrong with our country, whichever country you're part of, and how you can help make things right. You have avenues towards through politics. You have avenues through calling representatives and petitioning, and you should be making use of all these things available to you, not just moving straight to being super frustrated and acting out, but rather taking legitimate steps all along the way as best you can. Thanks so much for watching. Steve Poplar of the Poplar Report, out.